Umar's very similar to early Khabib.
Yeah, yeah. And the dominance of Khabib. I mean, yeah, he was dominant right from the start, but he seemed to get more dominant as his career went on. I mean, what he did to Justin Gaethje was unbelievable. But back to Umar, I agree. You know, I mean, he seems like he's just as dominant in the grappling department, and then you combine that with the striking. You know what I mean? I love watching his strikes. His kicks are so fast and dynamic. I mean, he's going to.
I wish people could understand how hard it is to kick with the lead leg the way he does, with no real windup, not always a switch. It's so dangerous and so fast. That's really, really hard to do. There's not many people in the world that kick like that.
Did you see the way he just stamped in his opponent's face?
Yeah.
See that one? And it was literally like you stamp someone when they're on the floor. Do you know what I mean? He lifted his leg up in the air and then doosh, stamped them like that. I mean, it was like fucking Dalsim.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. Who did he beat? Remind me. Oh my God, I should know this. I commentated the fight.
I'm an asshole now.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Nate Maness.
And Nate's tough.
Yeah.
You know, Nate is very, very tough. Harrington O'Brien, anything else that needs a shout out? We did Vanessa Demopoulos. They were great fights.
Yeah, really I've been sorry to jump in there, Harrington. I wanted to talk about the Magny Rakhmonov fight a little bit.
Of course.
I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought Neil was gonna. I think we talked about this on Thursday that I thought Neil would be more competitive than people were giving him credit for. And I'm not sure that he was. He stayed in there. He was defensively pretty sound most of the time. But he was just that. He was defensive most of the time. I thought Neil would be a little more offensive and make Rakhmonov maybe have to deal with some of his stuff a little bit, and he didn't at all. But I think that my one big knock on Rakhmonov is his media. He could use a coach for sure. Like, I wish some of these, like the call out, I thought was awful. Like the Masvidal, who was the other
Thompson.
One? Yeah, that's Stephen Thompson. That's actually a good one. But he was really stuck on Masvidal. And, who am I to judge people for what language they speak? But I really appreciate when some of these guys that aren't from America. Oh, and Nick Diaz. That's right. He called out Nick Diaz too, which is a terrible call out. You might as well just throw it away. Kind of a waste of time to even make the Masvidal. Yeah, Masvidal's not happening. Nick Diaz is not happening. Stephen Thompson's actually a pretty good one, but I really appreciate when people that aren't from America and they're fighting in the States. I appreciate when they make the attempt to speak English and at least give it a shot. If it's really bad, I understand that. I have a couple Brazilian friends, and I think sometimes they're afraid to speak English publicly because they don't want to sound like they're unintelligent or that they're not smart because they don't quite have a grasp on the way that the kind of flow of the conversation goes. But I think that if that kid could really learn English and at least have some phrases, I think he'd be 10 times more popular and make, smarter call outs. I think I don't really have any real knocks on his fight because he looked fucking fantastic. But media-wise, I think he could use some help.
To your point, he did actually say via his translator, he's working on learning English when I spoke to him last week. And I think that is a big deal because you're absolutely right. Of course, there's a big wide world out there. There's many different languages, so it's I guess
it sounds ignorant. It sounds ignorant.
It sounds ignorant,
but it helps.
But the reality is that this sport is driven by predominantly the US market, and then outside of that, it's obviously you got the Brazilians, there's a massive market down there. Obviously you got China that's building and all the rest of it, but it's kind of like the universal language, which I know Spanish is the number one language on the country. But I'm going to say the universal language is English because it pretty much is. You go anywhere in Europe, people speak English. You go down Southern America, a lot of people speak English, because it's no. And to your point, and again, as I said, I recognize that sounds ignorant, but to your point, though, people like Anderson Silva, when he started speaking English, it just resonates with the people so much more. And yes, that could be an issue with human society as a whole. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, that's the way it works, because the viewer at home, when they're sitting there watching this guy and or girl, and they can't speak the language, it's hard to identify. It's hard to relate. It just is, sadly. And I remember when Anderson Silva started speaking a bit of English, all of a sudden you're like, oh, and you started seeing a little bit of personality and a little bit of, you know, a little squeaky voice, but you could understand what he was saying. He's normal. And it fucking helps. You know, if you're going to be a star, unfortunately, you know, and I think he recognizes that. And I hope that doesn't sound like I hope it doesn't sound ignorant, because I can understand why some people would say that. But the reality is, it really helps.
Well, and I've been saying forever, if Figueiredo spoke a little bit of English, it would just skyrocket him, because he does have a personality and he does have a lot to say, but it doesn't always hit you quite as hard when he says it and it's through Waleed. And then it's from him to you, and you know what I mean? Like,
well, Waleed's fucking changing exactly what he says.
That's not exactly what he said.
Anyways, like, you know, it was a great fight, and you know, I really had a fucking.
And Waleed's like, no, I said, fuck that guy. We need to do that shit again.
Conor McGregor, fuck you all. Yeah, I need more money.
You took everything I worked for, motherfucker.
Millions of dollars. I'm like, did he really say that? Anyway.
Almost none of the time, but that's just one of those examples where I think that's another guy that could really benefit. If he spoke a little bit of English, even just a little bit of, I love it when you have a fighter that maybe he's a little bit newer in the UFC, or you're trying to get to know him, and they just end it with a phrase, or you can just tell that they're trying. I fucking appreciate that so much. So I guess that's my only.
Who was it last night? Somebody did that. Wasn't Shavkat, was it? No, it wasn't. By the way, Shavkat looked incredible. He did. You know, I mean, Neil Magny was very good defensively. But I even said this on comms. We're not here to defend. You got to have offense. And he did it. And I thought Neil did a good job in the first round. But Shavkat was just breaking him down bit by bit, piece by piece, looking for openings. And I didn't think he was going to get that guillotine at the end. But hey, fucking hell.
It was tricky too. The way he kind of finished it, he was on top in that half guard position, and he kept going over Neil's head, but it was kind of like just a bait. So he'd go over his head, Neil would lay back. He'd go over his head, He did that 3 or 4 times, and then Neil sat up. He kind of went over his head and then pretended like he was pulling it back out, and so Neil got a little confident and stuck his neck out. And boom! It was super sneaky.